Welcome back to Wrestler 101. It's a very special WrestleMania week edition. When we're in WrestleMania season, constantly hear guys talking about how important this time of year is, and the WrestleMania match is the biggest match of the year, and everybody's pulling out all the stops. And it got me thinking, what's that mean? What makes a WrestleMania match? Austin's. What makes a WrestleMania match?
A rivalry.
A rivalry.
Yes, there's an idea.
That is. What makes a WrestleMania match, other Austin?
It depends on what time period you're asking about. Nowadays, it's a lot of new fancy gear, a lot of pointing at a sign for your hype up promos, a lot of big cool spots. Usually, a more emotionally driven story, or something as big as like going for the belt in the main event or something. A lot of spectacles, a lot of attractions. That's why there's like so many fucking celebrities on WrestleMania trying to get them tickets sold. They feel bigger. They just generally feel bigger.
Well, yeah, that's the point. But what makes them feel bigger? Just that they're on WrestleMania?
No.
I don't know. Robbie, what makes a WrestleMania match?
Well, back in the day, it was like this guy right here on my shirt, Macho Man Randy Savage.
You're on WrestleMania this year. How are you going to make your match bigger?
Damn, you're on WrestleMania this year?
I feel like if I get it really personal, really emotional, hype up the story, and give the crowd something very intense, very...
So what you're suggesting is that the match itself doesn't matter. It only matters if there's enough build to make it a WrestleMania match.
I feel like the build's very important.
Usually people complain that WrestleManias don't feel like WrestleManias because they start announcing matches like 2 months before and then start building them a few weeks before, and they just have like this cobbled together card and all these angles that have absolutely no heat.
From what they're saying, it just depends on the storyline and how it's built, and pretty much just build the match around what the story is.
Not that you guys are wrong. Definitely not. I think you guys are hitting on some very fundamentals that are very important. Talking about the build, you're talking about needing to bring out the emotion. You know what I mean? And having the story behind the match, having the emotion behind the match, I guess that's very important. And really, I don't necessarily think that I have a right answer. This is a question that probably plagues a lot of wrestlers, and I think it's one. I think there are some different answers. How do you make a match a main event? How do you make a blow-off match bigger? The problem I say with you guys leaning so heavily into like the build and the storyline, there are millions of people who watch WrestleMania that don't watch the entire rest of the year. Certainly don't watch the storyline. So you still have to deliver that show, Our big shows on this level, we get, our biggest crowd is Spectacle Night. That means that there are some people at Spectacle who haven't come to any other show, or that don't come to every show. You know what I mean? So they're not getting the full build, but we still have to deliver a main event feel for them. I think it's a question that's hard to answer, and I don't intend to answer it tonight necessarily. It's something I think we should all be thinking of, because we all hope to be in main events someday, and whether it's WrestleMania or Grand Wrestling Spectacle or just the main event of the show you happen to be on, how are you going to make that bigger than any other match? You know, one of the things to bring up, one of the things for Wrestler 101 is that's why it's so, like, you know, one of the reasons I harp so much on, like, we hear all the time, you know, how guys got to get their shit in, you know. Like, one of the bad things is about having to get your shit in is that then you don't have any shit left to pull out when it's time for a big match, when it's time for a main event, you know. I think as wrestlers, one of the things we need to do is very much build our early matches to build to the bigger match. You know what I mean? Like, we can't get to a bigger match. We shouldn't be getting to a bigger match and inventing a bunch of new stuff that we never do before. Like, we should get to the match and it should be a next step up, you know? So if we do, you know, if we have 4 moves and we only do any 2 of them in any given match, then when we have a match where we do all 4, boom, that's that next level. You know, and that's a way pared down philosophy of it. I also think there needs to be, you know, this isn't to say we should ever half-ass a match, but we should build our characters and our style with a, you know, like a given match progression. With different gears, you know what I mean? Like, we should have our big money match gear that we don't get to every time. And I think a lot of wrestlers try to have that gear in every match, and then nobody ever has that gear to turn it up when we get to a big match. Does that make sense?